Hi everyone, good afternoon. I am Rodmar Eda, the National Convener of the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines.
Yes, hi Rodmar. I'm Iya
Hi.
Antonio. Will be your host this afternoon, and today we are launching the SDG Youth Agenda for the 2022 national elections.
Tama yan, Ea. That's so on point, no? Talagang yung hinintay natin. But we'll introduce what the SDG Youth Agenda is and how it can help the voters, how it came about, and what can we expect in the lead up to the May 9 elections.
Right, and for that we are joined by three guests who have helped put this project together. And let's call them in, starting with the project director of the Vote for SDGs project of the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines. We have with us Rans Calderon. Hi, Rans.
Hi,
Hello, good
Rans.
afternoon.
Also with us is Stephanie Cruz of UP CIFAL. Hi, Steph.
Hi everyone, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, Steph. And completing our group as one of the lead writers and contributors to this agenda, we have Vince Pahanyot. Hi, Vince.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Ayan. So,
Okay.
welcome everyone to our kwentuhan, our launch for today, no? But before we start our discussion, let us first have a look at this video that will give us an overview of the SDG Youth Agenda. Let's watch this.
The SDG Youth Agenda for the 2022 national elections in the Philippines. The SDG Youth Agenda outlines the concerns of the Filipino youth on social and environmental issues using the SDGs as a framework. These are actions that they hope the candidates of the national elections would take on in their campaigns and future policies. It lists the areas of priorities that young people believe should be prioritized by election candidates. The SDG Youth Agenda will be forwarded to all national candidates for such priorities to be considered. This is just one of the key components of the hashtag Vote for SDGs campaign spearheaded by the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines Incorporated in the lead up to the election day on May 9, 2022. Socio-economic development. Create an economic recovery plan amid the pandemic that will help alleviate socio-economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and promote job security. Food and agriculture. Employ pandemic-fit sustainable mechanisms for end-to-end food supply chain systems, especially in agriculture, to dampen the impacts of the pandemic on food supply and ultimately prevent consequent negative impacts to public health, malnutrition, poverty, and labor. Health. Effectively and efficiently address the challenges of the pandemic and continue to improve health systems by pushing for genuine universal health care, providing better and more affordable services, investing on health technologies, promoting healthy and sustainable lifestyle, and giving extra focus on mental health, comprehensive sexuality education, and reproductive health as the most pressing issues among the youth. Education. Increase investment in the education sector and amid the pandemic provide better support for educators and learners, which includes tools, technology, infrastructure, capacity building, and mental health support. Energy. With due consideration of the welfare of the people and the environment, reduce electricity and fuel rates and remedy the country's overdependence on fossil fuel resources through executive and legislative policies. Gender. Continue to promote gender equality and address problems related to gender, especially gender-based violence and discrimination, may it be in the workplace, on the streets, at home, in cyberspace, and in other settings and platforms, and ensure the implementation of laws and programs that are based on research and data to protect women, girls, and other gender diverse individuals. Environment. Amid the pursuit for economic development, craft and implement policies that advance the protection of the environment and indigenous communities, including those related to proper waste management, mining regulations, land use, disaster risk reduction and mitigation, climate financing, and climate education, among others. Industries and innovation. Develop a national roadmap for innovation, improve infrastructure, create an enabling environment for local innovators and entrepreneurs to flourish, and continuously improve the ease of doing business in the country. Sustainable cities. Prioritize the creation of green, well thought and properly designed sustainable communities with complete provisions of basic necessities and mobility grounded on the employment of the applicable and appropriate urban planning, human settlement, and transport designs, establishing scalable benefits ready for replication in other localities. Peace. Institutionalize freedom of information. Put in place sound policies that protect the rights of Filipinos against reckless red tagging. Take a humane approach in addressing addiction to illegal drugs and hold public servants accountable for committed crime and other offenses against the Filipino people.
Awesome. Thank you, Youth Force, for that video. So, I think that video summarized what we'll see on the SDG Youth Agenda. So, alam natin merong 10 themes na pinagtulong-tulungan buuin, no, para sa buong agenda to. But we'll find out more about the process and what it's about through our discussion with the group today. We see that it's a set of issues and concerns for the candidates for the May 9 elections. So, Rans, can you give us a bit more of a background on how it was developed and who were involved in the process? Rans?
Rans?
Uh, yeah, ayun. So the SDG Youth Agenda was developed through series of consultations, ano. So last year, we started to do consultation sa mga iba't ibang kabataan. Nagkaroon ng public call for consultations. Tayo, sorry, nawala ba ako or yun. So ayan. So, nagkaroon ng public call for consultations. Tapos, ginather natin sila for a series of consultations. Katulad ng mga sinabi dun sa video from socio-economic development, pinag-usapan natin yun. Tapos, pinag-usapan natin yung iba't ibang issue pa na nabanggit dun sa video. Kaya nagkaroon ng SDG Youth Agenda. Mga involved dito tayo, si Fal, lagi natin kasama yung si Fal dyan. The 2030 Youth Force just convened the people. Just to name a few, the people from Tayo Awards was there, from the consultation, Speeds was there, students from different colleges and universities. So ito yung collective effort ng mga kabataan para magkaroon ng SDG Youth Agenda.
Right. Um, Thank you, Rans, for that backgrounder. And I think just so the viewers can see the agenda, you can view the link to the full SDG Youth Agenda once we post it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/youthforceph. So over to you, Rodmar. Do you have a question for our
Yes.
guests?
Yes, thank you very much for that, Rans. No? So yung kaninang overview na nakita natin, it's a fraction of the whole agenda na talagang pinagpaguran ng ating mga kasama from different partners. But medyo kanina pa natin paulit-ulit na sinasabi, no? We keep on hearing about the SDGs. This question is for Steph from CIFAL. Can you give our viewers, especially those who are not so familiar, no, a very brief overview of what the Sustainable Development Goals are, and why did we choose this to be the framework as we choose the candidates for the elections?
And hi, good afternoon, everyone. So again, I'm Steph from CIFAL Philippines. So to give you a brief background no, on what the SDGs are, so this means Sustainable Development Goals. So this is the framework that the United Nations released no, to give every nation um, parang goals on what we can achieve no holistically. So hindi lang siya focused on specific issues and concerns no. So dito 17 goals ang ating SDGs. So katulad nga yun ng pinakita ng youth force kaninang before tayo magsimula no. So yun yung mga focus and goals na pwede nating gawing framework as a nation to have a better quality of life for our countrymen. So yeah. Another question no kung bakit important itong SDGs to be used as framework for this upcoming election no. So since itong SDGs ay holistic plan for all nations not to follow. Um, maganda siyang gawing maganda siyang i-follow ng ating mga policy makers no to be guided on which issues must be take action which issues yung mga policy makers natin yung dapat nilang i-focus on. So, yeah.
Thank you very
Right.
much, Steph. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So talagang magandang framework nga no yung sustainable development goals natin to follow. So thank you for that quick
Mm-hmm.
overview, Steph.
Yeah. Okay. And as usual, the framework that the youth forces and CIFAL are always using, it's the SDGs. But this time, Vince, can you share with us the emerging themes of the SDG Youth Agenda, or how does it differ from the previous SDG Youth Agenda? Have you um sort of compared the two?
Mm, Yeah. So basically, ang SDG Youth Agenda has 10 key areas of concerns, but these 10 key areas of concern follow the 17 SDGs. So to cut it short lang, these 17 SDGs follow the 5 pillars of sustainable development. We have people, planet, prosperity, partnerships, and peace. So, some areas of concern of the SDG Youth Agenda are merong aspect on socio-economic development, of course, merong human rights, environment, education, health, and meron marami pang iba. So, the main difference of the previous SDG Youth Agenda nung 2000, which was released nung 2019 for the senatorial elections was the current or itong inilo-launch natin na SDG Youth Agenda was drafted in the context of the pandemic or in the context of a better normal because we want to emphasize and we are hoping that the SDG Youth Agenda could be used by our lawmakers not only in the national no but also in the local to craft yun nga sinabi ni Steph kanina, to craft policies or to craft roadmaps to achieve a better normal that is inclusive or that is equitable or that will provide equal opportunities for everyone.
Thank you very much, Vince. May follow-up question lang ako, Vince, no? Since you're one of the writers and at the same time you're also present during the consultations. So can you tell us a little more about the process? Because I believe the previous agenda, although it was consulted with the young people as well, paano ba ka mas ano ba siya? Mas diversified ba yung representation ng young
Yeah.
people in the making of this agenda?
Yes, particularly involved ako nung consultations for energy and environment. So, based on my experiences doon sa dalawang consultations na to, hindi lang naman say members from the academe yung kinoconsult natin. Meron ding students like me and other college students meron ding umattend na say from some government agencies, naglaan sila ng oras for the consultation, and most especially most especially yung youth, kasi again, this is the youth agenda, so importante na meron silang contribution dito. So hindi lang siya technical, hindi rin naging technical yung, hindi lang puro jargon yung napag-usapan during that consultation, but nabigyan ng context, nabigyan ng mas laymanized approach kung ano nga ba yung SDGs. Kasi the fear is yung SDGs medyo technical siya pakinggan, di ba? Tapos sasabihin na they are 17. But kung ma-laymanize mo yung 17 goals na yun, maiisip na ma-relate sa mga tao na these, ang 17 goals na to is actually nandyan na, but what our agenda will do is to improve it, para yung opportunities na mabibigay or na mabibring up from those goals or from the agenda, the targets, ay ma-access ng lahat. Kaya nga 'di ba, no one left behind yung parang theme ng SDGs. But aside from no one left behind, yung isa pang concept is the furthest behind first. So yung mga, the term is yung mga nasa laylayan, yung as much as possible, yun yung unang mabibigyan ng serbisyo through the SDGs and the SDG Youth Agenda.
Yes, thank you very much, Vince, for that
Yeah.
explanation of the process na mas inclusive siya, consulted ang karamihan ng mga kabataan. Pero okay lang ba you want to say something?
Yeah, gusto ko lang i-add na maganda yung point din ni Vince na hindi siya technical. The
Mm-hmm.
consultation itself was really about what are your priorities? We asked young people, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, what are your priorities? What do you think the policymakers and the future leaders of the country should prioritize? At iginrupo lang ito, education, health, energy. At the end of the day, the 17 SDGs are really just about the people, the planet, and peace. So, well, and economic growth. So, ayun. So, maganda na point out ni Vince how it was really more about the priorities of young people.
Yeah.
Back, Rodmar.
Yes, tama, no? Yun din sasabihin ko kanina, pero tama yun, it's really for the youth, by the youth, and with the youth nga, no, as we refer to it as well. Um, my next question goes to Steph. Balikan kita, Steph. Although medyo you kind of talked about it na, but earlier you parang connected the SDGs, no, to as a framework. But for the SDG Youth Agenda, I believe you've nabasa yung mahabang document na we'll be sharing. I think the link will be available naman na, and we've already sent the document kani-kanina lang din to the to our candidates, no, and our the link for the SDG Youth Agenda is actually flashed on our screens right now. That's www.youthforce.org/SDG Youth Agenda. So feel free po to read through it and adopt it in your organizations. Pero mamaya pa yan kung anong mga way forward natin na explain. But balikan ko lang si Steph din, no. Particularly the SDG Youth Agenda, how relevant is it to the upcoming national elections? Because every election is different. No, now we have the pandemic, and in the future as well.
Mm-mm. As what I've mentioned earlier, no. So the SDG Youth agenda, or the SDGs in general, is a good framework to follow for all nations, no, for policy making. Not only for policy making, but also to other projects, no. Pero specifically for the SDG Youth Agenda, I'll say na it is very relevant kasi we are encouraging the youth to speak, no, we are giving them the opportunity for their voices to be augmented to the policy makers, no. So since yung youth natin is part of one of the most valuable part of the community as future leaders, no. So it is very important that the policymakers, the candidates that we will be elected for, we will be electing, sorry, for this upcoming national elections. It is very important that they hear what we as youth what the youth's concerns are, and what we want to be focused on. So, and add ko lang, no, so since yung agenda kasi natin, no, yung 2030 agenda, um, launch siya nung 2015, and will be ending or reviewed by 2030. So itong um, 2022 elections will be very crucial, since 8 years remaining na lang before the agenda before the agenda is finished, no? So very crucial siya na yung i-elect natin na ito bang targets ng SDG agenda ay marireach natin if we choose wisely kung sino yung i-vote natin for this coming election. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Steph, for emphasizing that. No, so our leaders, we also hope that our leaders would expedite the us reaching the goals, no, for of these SDGs. Because it's not just, for the sake of meeting our international commitments or targets, but also really benefiting the Filipino people. And dahil lagi natin nababanggit kanina ang kabataan, ang participation sa election, maybe let's just briefly touch on the importance of youth participation in the elections, not just in the actual elections on May 9, but maybe in the lead up to the election itself during the campaign period. How important do you think youth participation is, and what can we do for a successful elections for the SDGs? Let's start with Rans.
Okay, I'll start pero mag-add lang ako nun sa unang tanong kanina on SDGs.
Hmm.
The unang-una, the SDG are important in the upcoming elections because we do have a localized and already adjusted revised Philippine Development Plan, which is the ambition natin 2040. Ito yung localized version natin na SDGs dito sa Pilipinas, which is hindi natin na pag-uusapan masyado habang nangyayari yung campaign season and election season right now. It is, for us, it is high time to talk about SDGs and sustainable development in general. Kasi nakakalimutan ito ng iba't ibang kandidato. Maraming mga tao na nag-a-ask ng ano ba yung concern natin on climate issues, on energy issues, 'di ba, na lagi tayong napupunta sa health, which is okay kasi we're transitioning in the pandemic, no. And yun din yung dahilan kung bakit mahalaga yung role natin bilang kabataan sa upcoming elections because una, kaya natin magpapanalo o magpaupo ng the whole youth vote ay kaya magpaupo ng president at vice president lang kung iisa lang yung boto ng buong kabataan in terms of numbers itself. Pangalawa, kasi hindi naman para sa mga matatanda na yung mga polisiyang gagawin in terms of SDGs and institutionalizing yung mga gusto nating mangyari on climate action, on energy, on education. Hindi naman para sa mga matatanda na ito, para sa mga kabataan na ito at sa mga mas bata pa sa atin. Kaya natin sinasabi na mahalaga yung role natin bilang isang kabataan sa upcoming elections at beyond election lalo kasi hindi naman natatapos yung usapin na sustainable development pagkatapos ng SDG ng election na to. As one of the lead ng Vote for SDGs campaign kasi itong SDG Youth Agenda ay more than the upcoming elections, more than we're asking the candidates to include in their platforms and their promises yung mga nakalagay sa SDG Youth Agenda. We will also call them out or we will also ask them pag nakaupo na sila kung sino man yung mauupo on this SDG Youth Agenda pa rin. So, mahalaga yung role natin kasi hindi lang tayo natatapos sa election period, kundi yung role natin bilang isang kabataan ay pwede din tayong maupo sa mga election, upcoming election, etc. So, mahalaga yung role natin kasi para sa atin ito at sa mga susunod pang generation.
Yes, thank you, Rance, for also bringing up the, accountability. So beyond the election period, as citizens, even we can hold them accountable to their promises, even during the campaign season, and the responsibilities and duties of their elected post. So thank you, Rance, and Vince. Your thoughts? How
Yeah.
important is youth participation?
Medyo touch ko lang yung nabanggit kanina ni Rans about sa youth voting block, ano. So, if I'm correct, if I remember it right, ang youth voters ay comprise siguro 52% of the voting population of the Philippines. So, tama yung sinabi ni Rans na if magiging monolithic lang ang youth voting block, makakapanalo tayo ng kung sino man yung dinedesire natin na kandidato sa susunod na election. However, just like every other block, and since we are a democracy, hindi naman iisa ang ginugustong kandidato ng mga kabataan. So, I think one of the challenges for the youth is for us na SDG advocates din is to make the youth realize or inform them how important achieving the sustainable development goals for their future, and how it is important right now din, hindi lang naman for the future kasi meron namang immediate impacts ang pag-achieve ng SDGs. um, the impact of SDGs from current impacts and yung future impacts. So, not just only for the youth of today, but also for the youth of tomorrow. Kasi, importante, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina na napaintindi natin, kasi kung babasahin, papabasa natin lang sa kanila yung UN resolution noong 2015, na I think nasa 40 plus pages yun. So, as advocates, it is our duty to inform them about ano ba 'tong SDGs? Ano bang benefit ang makukuha ko dito? Parang, okay, let's say we achieve SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. Ano magiging impact nun sa akin at saka sa mga susunod na henerasyon? So, it is our duty na maipaintindi sa youth, at hopefully, once na naintindihan na nila, isa ang SDGs at yung nilo-launch natin na SDG Youth Agenda sa magiging basehan nila sa iboboto nilang kandidato, hindi lang for the 2022 elections, kundi sa mga susunod na eleksyon. Although sabihin natin na 2030 ang target year for the SDGs, tanggalin mo man yung date na year na 2030, applicable pa din lahat ng sustainable development goals from beyond 2030. So, yun lang.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Vince. And upon quick researching of the figures you mentioned earlier, more than half of the 65.7 million voters in the country are between ages 18 and 14. That's from an article on CNN, and that's about 37 million Filipino voters, accounting for 56% of local voters. Wow, okay. So, ayan, confirmed. 56, fact checked, 56% of local voters. And again, we hope to remind our fellow young people to help in the fact checking of information going around in this campaign season. And lastly, let me go to Steph. Steph, your thoughts. How important do you think youth participation is in this season?
Ayan. So, add ko na lang din no, sa mga sinabi nila Vince and Francie. So, in general, I think we can observe naman na the youth are very vocal. Uh, we can observe in the in social media, youth organizations, mga projects, advocacy programs, that the youth has become very vocal of their opinions on various issues. No? So this means that they are reading up and researching deeply on these issues to be able to understand and have a say. So, since sa katulad nga ng sinabi ni Rance and Vince kanina, no, na um, the youth will be the future leaders of our nation. So it is very important that the youth are heard um, um, sa mga policy, heard and be part of the policy making. Yeah.
Ayan, thank you very much, Steph, and thank you, Rance and Vince as well, no, for underscoring the importance really of hindi lang importance but the power of the young people during this time. But going back to the SDG Youth Agenda, would like to know, no, moving forward, what are the other efforts? No, it's out there. The document is out there. But Rance, this question is for you as the lead of as the lead um for the SDG Youth Agenda. No, what are the other efforts that we can do to supplement the agenda or ways to strengthen or solidify it, or our efforts in general?
Okay, so right now you can go to this www.youthforsph.org/SDG Youth Agenda to read on dun sa agenda. One thing that you can do if you're watching right now and if you're part of an organization is you can sign on the agenda as well. Uh, kung nakikita nyo kanina sa mga dun sa crawlers natin sa baba, there are different organizations who initially signed on the agenda. And I would like to just take this opportunity to thank them, the Online SDG Youth Action Forum, Good Gov PH, Streets to Schools, Teach for the Philippines Incorporated, National Alliance for Youth Leaders, Tatak Botante, and UP Diliman Engineering Student Council, because they are the few organizations who initially signed on the agenda. And as part of leaving no one behind, we would want everyone to sign on the agenda as well. If you go to this link, to this site, you will see there the SDG Youth Agenda. Pwede nyo basahin yung SDG Youth Agenda. At makikita nyo rin dyan na pwede kayong mag-sign on dun sa agenda. May link din dyan to sign on the agenda. Marami pang mangyayari. If you're going to sign on the agenda and you will be and if you're either an individual or organization, you will be part of the phase 2 and phase 3 of the Vote for SDGs campaign. The hashtag Vote for SDGs campaign, which is the the program of the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines, yun yung magli-lead to the election on May 9. The phase 2 will be a forum, a different forum of different organizations and individuals will sign on the agenda. After, sabi nga ni Rodmer kanina, we sent the SDG Youth Agenda to different candidates, so presidential candidates, vice presidential candidates, and senators. And we will ask them to comment on it. We'll ask them kung ano yung mga different platforms o ano naman nagawa nila regarding this SDG Youth Agenda at ano yung plano nila when they are seated or elected on their position. And we will discuss with different organizations and different youth leaders and individuals pa rin on the phase 2 of this Vote for SDGs campaign para pag-usapan natin yung mga sinasabi ng mga kandidato. And that would be our part of voter engagement. Another and lastly would be the SDG scorecard. The Youth Force already did this way back 2019 where we grade the each senatorial balls on their SDG scores. Right now, we will also do and craft an SDG scorecard for the vice presidentiables and presidentiables of the country, yung mga candidates natin. And we will check kung ano na ba yung mga nagawa nila, kung may say ba sila on this particular SDGs or issues regarding the SDG Youth Agenda. At ilalabas natin ito bago mag-election ng May 9. So, and you can be part of it kasi part nga ng ginagawa natin ay pagpa-fact check, pagre-research ng maayos kung nasabi ba talaga to, ginagawa ba talaga to, or may say ba talaga ang kandidato tungkol dito. And that's our part para malaman natin na parte ang SDGs ng mga plataforma ng mga kandidatong ihahalal natin by May 9.
Thank you very much, Rans. No? So, talagang ito ay simula pa lamang ng marami pang bagay at activities that will and causes that will have to do. So I think that's it. Thank you very much to all our guests for today. No, I think you perfectly presented naman, no, how what's the SDG Youth Agenda is all about. No? But let me just give some final remarks. No, a reminder of the importance of 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 everyone to vote, to go out there and vote, no, because it is our right. And we have to practice that right, di ba? Gustong gusto ko nga yung sentiment na parang it's the only day where everybody's equal. All of us get to vote one. We all have one vote, di ba? So pantay-pantay tayo during that day, and it's a demonstration of how powerful we are, no, as people. And this SDG Youth Agenda is it won't tell you directly who to vote, no, but perhaps it will tell us how to vote somehow, no. Na this is the SDG Youth Agenda. It has been instrumental in making policies. No, we have the PDP nga, the ambition natin 2040, and just today, no, we've it was just signed into law the raising of the age of sexual consent, which is also included in one of the indicators and targets in the global goals on the 2030 agenda. So let's vote for hopefully the SDG Youth Agenda will be uh, parang it'll be a solid and good parang criteria for us to vote, to who to vote for the next elections. But a final reminder na hopefully we get to vote for SDGs. And thank you very much again to all of our guests for today, to Rans Calderon, the project director of the Vote for SDGs, and of course we also have Vince Pacaniot and Stephanie Cruz of CIFAL.
Thank you so much, Rans, Vince, and Steph for your insights today. And thank you everyone who contributed to the SDG Youth Agenda. And as we see, several organizations have already expressed their support and pushing for the SDG Youth Agenda. And we hope that the candidates would listen to the voices of the Filipino youth and take into account this set of priorities in their campaigns and policies later on. So again, I'm flashing the link on your screen so you can check it out, and that you could also sign on to support this agenda. Radmar.
Yes, and there's a lot to look forward to in a few weeks. YFH or next month, or perhaps YFH will release the SDG scorecard for the candidates, another guide for us, no, for presidency and vice presidency. And we believe that this could help voters discern which candidates deserve their vote.
Right, definitely. It could be our guide in knowing who among the candidates will take sustainability seriously, not only economic growth, but also the welfare of the people and the environment, and of course, peace, which is very important, especially this time. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And again, you may read the full agenda through that link we shared earlier, and follow the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines on Facebook to stay updated.
This has been Rodmar Ada.
And I'm Aya Antonia. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Bye bye.
Thank you.